Welcome back to Patient Win Insider. I'm Nick Moen, and today I'm joined by Daniel Jimenez, co-founder and COO of Stride Dental Group out of Florida. Daniel's background spans defense, Amazon, and now dental operations, where he's helping scale a tech-forward DSO that blends insurance expertise, automation, and high-value clinical care. From perio turnarounds to clear aligner strategy, we're diving into what's working and how Stride is building for the future. Let's get into it.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Well, so you're not a dentist, but you're running a fast growing DSO. What made you take the leap from Amazon and your other endeavors, engineering and whatnot, into dental operations?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question. I'm someone that, well, first off, let me just start off by saying thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you. But yeah, I'm someone that is super passionate about data. I love making decisions based on data, but I didn't want to be like a programmer or like a business analyst, right? That's what people that love data, that's what they do. So having that passion, being a people person, and then having my lifelong best friend, Dr. Ivan Montiel. He is a dentist. He is a very successful dentist at that. And, the chance to work together for him and I to really combine our superpowers, right? My strength is operations, execution, scalability, streamlining of automation, IT, technology, marketing. That's my passion. And I love being able to wear all those hats. And so, yeah, although it is a bit of a pivot from what I've done in the past, I think it's been very complimentary, right? As I've worked my way, 13 years in the defense industry, then went to Amazon, one of the, most well-known tech companies. But the theme throughout these jobs, although they may seem very different, the theme is operations, expectations, accountability, right? Execution, right? And so being able to leverage my past in an environment where we're making people's lives better. Granted, I know that people don't like the dentist. There's a lot of people that don't enjoy going to the dentist. But at the end of the day, you have a filling, you're in pain, you've got a cavity, you're not happy with your smile, you're not happy with the color of your teeth. We're there solving problems and watching people leave, most of the time, leave with a smile on their face and happy with the service they were provided. That, as cheesy as it may sound, that sort of gratification is something that I've learned as I've gotten older, is something that I really want out of my day to day. So that's the reason for dentistry.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean that's great. So it sounds like you share that passion with your partner, Dr. Monteo.
Yeah.
And what's the origin story there? Like
Yeah.
how are you able to have this passion with him?
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked, actually. So our DSO, our dental services organization, is called Stride Dental Group. And Stride actually comes from the origin of us, of Dr. Monteo and I. We met in middle school as track competitors.
Wow.
They're avid runners, track and field. We got to high school, went to the same high school, ran track and field, ran cross country. We won 2 state championships back in, I'm going to age myself here, back in 2000 and 2001, if I'm not mistaken. And so I love that Stride is a bit of an homage to our past, but also in healthcare, Stride, right? We're always striding towards perfection, striding to increase things, to streamline things, to make things better. So anyway, so that's sort of the origin as to the name. But in terms of, our structure, ultimately, what I learned when I started dipping my toe into the dentistry field, ultimately, is that this is an industry that is extremely in need of someone like me. And that's not an ego trip by any means. It's just, I am someone that I obsess about every process. If I see someone doing manual labor, I'm like, whoa. Why are you like, that's, I'm auditing that. That's the world I come from, right? That's not special. At Amazon, that's the norm, right? But in dentistry is a field, and this is just my limited perspective. Dentistry is a field that has been around for a long time, and people don't like change, and some of the old processes and the way things were done in the past, people are sticking to that. And so you take someone like me that is obsessing over the processes and asking questions and basically bucking the status quo, if you will, right? That is, in my short time in dentistry, that is really proven to be very valuable. Also, I'm someone that leans very heavily into technology, right? So with AI becoming such a big part of technology and marketing and patient engagement. I'm on probably 3 to 5 phone calls a week with some new AI third party vendor of marketing or branding or something. And I'm doing that because I want to be on the cutting edge of what's out there, what's available, what's possible for us. So I think that's the fact that dentistry was in need of someone like me, I think is valuable. But ultimately, we have 2 practices right now. We're very small. We're closing on a third one, potentially as early as today. By the way, today may be a very
Wow.
exciting day because we may be closing on our third practice.
Cool.
But our goal is really to get to 8 to 10 practices, maybe even more, and that's really getting to a place where we've created really robust processes at our practices, and then we can copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. That's the goal. But the one caveat I will say to that is private practice versus corporate, right? In dentistry, it's a fine line you have to walk because there's a lot of DSOs out there that are very, very large, and not to point any fingers, I won't name any names, but that don't have a great reputation. And what I mean by that is, and this is not an opinion, by the way, I've hired literally dozens of people from these DSOs, and there's just horror stories. Oh yeah, they fired the office manager. I didn't have an office manager. They fired the DA, the dental assistant didn't have that, or the doctor left, and so we didn't even have a doctor. And it felt all the patients thought that they were just a number, and just not. That's not what we want, right? So it's a bit of a tough situation because we are a DSO, right? But we don't necessarily need to advertise that, right? When you have a pain in your mouth and you come to one of my practices, no one's saying, hey, this is Family Care Dental. We're a part of Stride Dental Group. That's irrelevant, right? Stride Dental Group is a management company that takes care of all of the administrative tasks associated with running a business, running a dental practice. But these individual dental practices should feel like a private practice. They shouldn't feel like you're some big corporation. So I tell you that to say that that's really that fine line that we walk of how can we create this powerful, robust enterprise of dental practices while maintaining a private practice feel at each of the individual locations.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's great. So you've caught your stride here. You're working on opening up some new practices, and hopefully today goes smooth.
Yeah.
But what's the main, like, are there like 3 pillars or something that you want to copy and paste between? I know you said, look, we have the DSO, which I know you're saying maybe that doesn't matter, but at the end of the day, like that's kind of the overarching, the core values that you bring to each practice
Absolutely.
that you build, build by and build through time. So what are like the core values or core pillars that you're making sure you adhere to with each new practice?
Yeah, I think that the three pillars that we would consider our competitive advantage is number one, insurance expertise. Now that may sound very basic to you, like, wait a minute, yeah, but I go to the doctor, I go to the dentist, like, yeah, of course they're experts in insurance. Well, that's not the case. Insurance by design is not easy. It is complicated. It's a moving target, right? It's playing whack-a-mole. Every year things change, policies change, clauses change as to like missing tooth clauses or frequencies of cleanings, all kinds of stuff changes. And that's by design. So the fact that we have a team of people that are absolutely obsessed with knowing everything there is to know about all PPO plans, the Medicare plans as well. We also offer services for some government plans as well, such as the VA hospital. Having expertise there is absolutely critical. So what does that mean? What that means to our patients is that you can have more work done on your teeth with less out of pocket expenses when you work with us, right? Because we're going to absolutely do everything in our power to maximize your benefits, your coverage, because we want to make money, but we don't necessarily want to make your money from you, right? As the patient, we want to make money from the insurance company by leveraging your benefits, and of course, balancing that with what you need to have a nice, healthy mouth, right? So that's really the number one pillar is absolute insurance expertise. The second pillar is really about technology, right? We are extremely tech forward facing, right? So we have automated insurance verification, automated payment posting. We use virtual assistants in other countries that work 40 hours a week that are incredible, super strong dental backgrounds that are, really, really focused on delivering for us. We're actually working right now. It's very secret, so it's very exciting. But we're actually working to develop a new PMS, a new practice management software. We've partnered with a company that is basically a few engineers, and this is not an exaggeration, a few engineers that come from exits from multi-billion-dollar companies, truly. And so these folks have decided that there's an amazing opportunity in dentistry, and they are building a custom-made AI powered PMS that I believe is going to absolutely disrupt the market. So we're design partners with them, right? So we really think that's going to be an absolute game changer. And by the way, out of all the DSOs and all the different people that have approached them and private equity and all of that, they chose me and they chose us to be their design partners for this PMS. So it's really exciting. So I think that's the second pillar is technology, always on the cutting edge. And then lastly, I think the third really differentiator, and it goes back to my what I said before about like the ego. It's not ego. It's just kind of it's the differentiator, and that is the COO model, right? So I'm the COO of Stride Dental Group, and so as silly as this may sound, most dental practices, and when I say most, I mean probably 95% or more of all the dental practices in the country are owned and operated by a doctor, by a dentist.
Yeah.
And so they are cutting teeth. They're doing fillings, they're doing crowns, they're doing extractions, they're doing dentures. And then when all the patients are gone, they're running the business. They're looking at P&L, they're doing marketing, they're doing human resources. And Nick, it's not possible, right? Something's got to give. There's going to be a lack of quality somewhere, whether it's their clinical abilities, whether it's running the business, there's going to be an issue there. So with me, I take care of all of that, right? In our model, it's not just me. I mean, I have a team of operators as well, but we are non-clinical business savvy people that are focusing on P&Ls, expenses, EBITDA, right? Always evaluating the EBITDA. What is our value in the marketplace, right? What's our supplies budget? How are we doing with marketing? How's our campaigns going? Let's look at Google Ads. Let's look at social media. What about hiring, firing, payroll? I handle absolutely everything with that. So the doctors can do what they do best. That is care for patients, provide treatment, and not have to worry with any of the administrative burdens that come with running a business. And so that is another major pillar that separates us is we have dedicated operators. And again, just one thing to add about that, we think this is kind of basic, right? Oh, okay, you got a business guy, you got a clinical guy, you run the practice. But I'll tell you, Nick, we go to many dental conferences and lectures. And as we're meeting people, I can't tell you how many times someone comes up and I introduce myself and they say, oh my gosh, what I wouldn't give to have an operations guy like you. Like, oh my gosh. And they'll meet my business partner and they'll say, you're so lucky. And it's just like, that's really nice. That's really nice for them to say that. But it really is what's required if you want to scale at the rate that we plan to scale.
Yeah, that makes sense. Wow. Well, so I think it's maybe not an ego thing, but a confidence thing, right? I mean, you have confidence in the systems that you set up. I'm just kind of curious, like in the spirit of education, and I know, other practices or dentists will see the podcast. And I mean, do you have any tools you'd highly recommend? I mean, aside from yourself, you can't replicate yourself, but like what tools, are there any AI or cutting edge tools right now that you're using, maybe starting with insurance or going on to other operations?
Yeah, I got to be careful because I don't want to give away my trade secrets,
Right.
but no, I'm happy to share. I think the first thing I have to say on this topic is, and it sounds cliche, but it's a fact of business. You can only manage what you measure. And so if you're not measuring KPIs and you don't feel comfortable with that, and you don't either have a system or a PMS or something that can very accurately show you your new patient count, your referral sources, your production, collections, gross production, net production, your reappointment rate, your hygiene perio ratio, your treatment presentation, acceptance rates. I mean, like if you don't have all of this available, then you're operating blind, right? That's not the way to operate. So that's number one. You've got to find a way to measure what you plan to manage, right? Secondly, one tool that I think is really incredible is Lassie. Lassie, Lassie. They are a company based out of Silicon Valley. They are an automated software-based payment posting platform. And so they integrate with your bank account and with all the insurances that you are networked with. And so it's amazing technology. They will go to the insurance company. They'll see the EOB for a patient. They'll go to your bank account and say, whoa, 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 there's a $200 deposit here with the same transaction ID as this EOB. So they will automatically post the payment to your patient ledger and drop the EOB in as well. And it's software. By the way, there's many companies that offer this service, but they're humans. This
Right.
is
Yeah.
software. They don't take
Yeah.
vacations. They don't have maternity leave. There's no weekends. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that's a great company. Another great resource is VeriSmart. So VeriSmart is a company led by Vivek, who's the CEO. He created this software. I think the company's Verific, right? So it's VeriSmart, but the company's Verific. And basically, this is an industry leading insurance verification platform. And when I say industry leading, I have to tell you that I've hired and fired 4 different companies that do insurance verifications. 4 different companies, hired and fired, and I've hired all of them. So these guys are next level because they are not only doing the verifications and getting all the information, but they're taking that information and they're writing it into the PMS. What's very common for those of you that may not know, what's very common for a good, for a decent basic insurance verification system is they can basically log into a clearinghouse that has a lot of good information, and then they'll populate a PDF and they'll drop a PDF into your software, right? That's really, really good. But if they drop the PDF into your software, your office staff still has to take the PDF and transcribe the information, right? Whereas with VeriSmart, they're literally filling out all of the fields, all of the percentages, everything within your PMS. So literally, a patient comes in, they've already been verified. You put in their treatment plan. Nick needs a filling and a crown, and boom, and it automatically calculates out-of-pocket expenses, insurance coverage, everything. No, nothing required. It's really, really amazing. So I think that's a really, really big tool that we use. And then there's some others, but I'll keep some of these trade secrets to myself. But one other really big vendor that we are big fans of and that we highly recommend is Reach. Reach is a company that employs virtual assistants in South America and in the Philippines. You may think, oh, okay, but these people, their English is probably not great. That may have been the case in the past. That is no longer the case. These folks are college educated, incredible work ethic. They work during our hours, even though it's 12, they're 14 hours ahead or whatever the time zone is. They're just really, really incredible. So they've been an absolute game changer for us. And so we have one of our VAs working on claims. All they do all day, every day is claims, AR, denied claims, resubmitting claims, putting narratives in, all of that stuff. And they do a really, really great job. And we're not paying them, vacation time or bonuses. Like they're taken care of separately. So I think that those are 3 tools along with measuring KPIs that I think are absolutely critical if you want to be on the cutting edge and you want to scale and continue to grow.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I have a lot of questions now, but I guess maybe going back to KPIs, it's always interesting to see kind of a direct example of it. But do you have an example where you're pushing the boulder up the hill and you realize looking at the data that something needed to change? Is there something recently that happened where using these tools, kind of showcased how important they are?
So the best example I can give you off the top of my head is the hygiene perio ratio metric. Let me explain that. So about 60% of the population, this is a fact, this is not an opinion, it's a fact. 60% of the population has what's called periodontal disease. Sounds scary. It's not as scary as it sounds. But basically, it is an inflammation of the gums. The gums are receding away from your teeth due to an infection. And so you require what's called gum infection therapy, right? So you come in, you get your gum infected. It's a deeper cleaning. Some people refer to it as a deep cleaning. We prefer to refer to it as gum infection therapy. But you do the cleaning, and then that's it. It's taken care of. And then once it's taken care of, the only problem, or not problem, the only thing to keep in mind is that instead of getting 2 cleanings a year, you will now need 4 cleanings a year for the rest of your life. That's a fact. This is normal. Any reputable dentist in the country will agree with everything that I just said. So when we bought a practice back in, it's been about 15 months now, we bought a practice and they never looked at these metrics, right? So I automatically take a look at how many hygiene patients they're seeing on a monthly basis, and then what percentage of those hygiene patients had a perio procedure done, right? So they had periodontal disease, they needed one of these procedures done. And the ratio, Nick, was 2%.
Wow.
2%. The national average is 60%, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I asked the doctors, I said, hey, jokingly, hey, is there something in the water in this town that people don't get periodontal disease? And he had this look of exasperation on his face, and he said, Daniel, he said, no, I'm afraid that if I go talk to the hygienist, that they're going to push back on me, and then they're going to quit because I'm pushing them too hard, and it's so hard to hire hygienists. And I said, whoa, absolutely not. I don't know how you guys did things in the past. Moving forward, all that I care about is operating ethically. I want to make sure that if someone has periodontal disease, even if they get upset with me, they yell at me, they say, whoa, all I want to do is what's insured by my, what's covered by my insurance. I've been getting the same regular deep cleaning or regular cleanings my whole life. It doesn't matter. Imagine this. If a doctor said to you, hey, you need a stent in your heart, you're, no, whoa. What are you trying to sell me? What are you trying
Right.
I don't know why our field seems to get a lot more pushback, like we're scam artists. We're not trying to scam you at all. 60% of the population has periodontal disease. So there's a problem. So if you have it, you take care of it. And by the way, Nick, if it gets bad enough, the gums will recede away from your teeth and you will literally lose your teeth. They will fall out of your mouth. All you have to do, get a deep cleaning, have 4 cleanings a year, and you're absolutely covered. You'll never have a problem again. It's that simple,
Wow.
right? So due to this metric that I began tracking, I put in place, updated protocol. Now, granted, I'm a non-clinical person. It's illegal for me to make mandates of clinical diagnosis, right? Obviously. But that being said, I think it is within my scope to look at the updated ADA, American Dental Association standards, guidelines, protocols, present those to the hygienist, present those to the doctors, ensure everybody is in line, and also ensure that if someone, again, gets upset with us and says, hey, whoa, what are you guys trying to sell me? That we say, ma'am, this is what is needed for your current oral health. If you would like to get a second opinion elsewhere, they're going to tell you the same thing. Your insurance covers most of it, so it's not like this is a hefty out-of-pocket expense. We're not trying to make money from you. We're trying to do what's best for your oral health. Simple as that, right? So by getting everybody on the same page, we then began seeing that number tick up. And I'm proud to tell you that here we are 14 months later, and then we had 55% perio. And in April, we were at 58% perio.
Wow.
So that is telling me that we are diagnosing properly. We're doing our jobs. We're not doing anything special. We're diagnosing properly. And more importantly, we're educating our patients well enough to where they're saying, let's do that. I want to do that for my oral health, right? Because the perio hygiene ratio metric that I track is not about diagnosis. Not how many people did you diagnose? No, it's how many people did we diagnose with perio that said, you know what? I would like to have that done today. So 55% last month, 58% in April. I'm really, really proud of that. And by the way, it is a business. And yes, that does equal dollars, right? So our revenue from hygiene has skyrocketed as a result of these additional findings.
Right. Well, so then how did you deal with, I know originally you said that the doctor said, well, how are we going to keep the hygienist? Like, how are you dealing with, we've talked a lot about the tools, but how are you dealing with, the hygienists and the receptionists, that how do you keep them around, and
Yeah.
what are the values there?
It's a great question, and I think it goes back to what we've talked about with time, right? The doctors were afraid, and they said it's so hard to get a hygienist, and I could not disagree more. When you have someone like myself and my team that is obsessed with posting a job, reading through candidate resumes, interviewing people, like I have all the time in the world to do that, right? I'm not cutting teeth. I'm not working on patients. And
Right.
so I find it very easy to find talent, review talent, hire talent. And so my philosophy, I think it's maybe a Malcolm Gladwell thing. So I don't want to steal it. I think it's his idea. But the thought process is that you hire slow and you fire fast, right? So we take our time to evaluate, to try to get the best possible talent that we can. But then again, anyone that's in business knows, again, this is another Malcolm Gladwell thing. Hiring somebody's like playing Russian roulette, right? Like there's, who someone presents themselves as in an interview, I have found does a lot of times does not equal how they turn out to be once they've joined the team. So I just think that by having a really great employment manual that really lays things out well for everybody, that, expectations, having protocols per position, I think is also very important. And then, I got to give a shout out to our team, because we have what I believe to be the best bonus system in dentistry. Most dental offices will do bonuses based on collections, right? Collections is how much money you actually made. But I decided to create a bonus system that is based on net production. So it really incentivizes production, getting things done, and it doesn't rely on insurances paying us. So hopefully we get paid, right? So we can pay the bonuses. But my bonus is based on net production, and it's weekly, which again is kind of an innovative thing, because a lot of offices, they have monthly goals. So you may have a killer week, you crushed it this week, but then the other weeks of the month were not so good, so you missed your bonus. So
Right.
my bonus structure is, as long as you work 30 hours in a week, you are eligible for the bonus, and there's 3 tiers of bonuses. So I'll tell you this, Nick, I'm happy to tell you that on average this year at our practices, if you take the bonuses that they've earned and you divide it by the average hours worked per week, it comes to $3 an hour. So
Wow.
that means that on average, if someone's getting paid $25 an hour with the bonuses that I've provided to them that they've earned, they've made essentially the equivalent of $28 an hour. So that is a really competitive bonus system that I feel has been instrumental in us getting talent and keeping talent.
Wow. Well, so but that's also dependent on getting new patients too, right?
100%.
So what's your strategy there? What's working, and what would you kind of recommend? The practices are in Florida, so are you using Google or Meta, Facebook, Instagram? Like what are the
Yeah.
channels you're utilizing?
Yeah, so I would say that the biggest return on investment that we've seen in our practices are direct mail campaigns.
Oh,
So we
wow.
do direct mail campaigns. We do that. Those are based on demographics. They're based on zip codes. We try to target higher average or average higher median household incomes, and higher median household values based on a 5 mile radius of the practices. So, in addition to the direct mail campaigns, we also have new mover campaigns. So, as people are moving into new areas, we're targeting them, right? They get to a new house, they need a new dentist for the new area. So, we're targeting those folks. But in addition to that, of course, you can't survive without Google ads. So, we have targeted, high dollar keywords, right? Dentist near me, emergency dentist near me, root canal, crown, teeth whitening, all of that. We do have social, we have media, Facebook and Instagram posts that we have as well. I definitely think that we could probably use some improvements from like an organic marketing standpoint, with like more fun around the office pictures. And today is, Secretary's Day, woo, group picture. Like we haven't done a great job of that, because we're kind of still in a startup mode, right? Like we're just kind of still ramping up, even though it's been a couple of years. We've hired so much, there's been a lot of turnover. And so we're just kind of, we're like kind of approaching that plateau now. We're like things are stable, right? The insurances are all credentialed and all that. But yeah, I am looking to inject some additional organic marketing content.
Okay. And then how does, I mean, obviously referrals too, like you're like people are coming back, right? Even though it's only been a couple years. Does that have to do with, the front desk staff? And it seems like they've got a lot of tools that are making their lives easier, especially, specifically with insurance. And what about, follow-ups with patients or booking and that kind of thing? Or is there anything you have in place there?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good point, right? I mean, one of my goals for automating a lot of what we do, some people have said, "Oh, Daniel, you're just trying to get rid of the front desk, the front staff, right? You're trying to automate everything." It's like, well, no. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to remove as many administrative tasks from the front desk as possible so they can do exactly what you just said, right? They can focus on the patient. Like if a patient walks in and we're on the phone and yeah, I'll be with you in just a second. I hate that. I hate that, right? I want you looking at the patients. Welcome. Oh my gosh, the doctor's so excited to meet you. We're really looking forward to having you as a new patient here, right? Like I want it to feel good, right? And so that really happens from the intake call, right? What is the communication on the phone? How are we setting the expectations, right? Are we meeting your expectations? And then they come in, they have the front lobby experience. Then the DA, the dental assistant, comes out and says, "Hey, Nick, are you ready? Come on back." Right? Like that whole process. And then the handoff, we call it like the baton, right? When they get up to the front desk, it's not like, "All right, Nick, have a good one. Thanks so much. Come back next time." And then now the front desk is saying, "Hey, Nick, did you have a crown done? What did you have done?" Like, that's not good business, right? We want it to be a handoff. So I'm the DA. I'm bringing you up front, Nick. Hey, so this is Nick. Nick, we did a couple fillings. We did a crown. Nick would like to come back to talk about maybe having clear aligners in the future. He'd like to straighten up his teeth, so we'll need to go ahead and schedule an appointment for that. And then next time we're gonna get his teeth cleaned as well. So let's make sure we get it like that handoff, right? That's really important for the whole experience. So I think that's a part of it. But then also you mentioned follow-ups. So again, goes back to technology, right? If you schedule an online appointment with us, you instantly get a text message confirming it. 2 weeks away from your appointment, you get a reminder text. A week away, you get a confirmation text. And we'll keep harassing you until you confirm, because dentistry, unfortunately, we suffer from a lot of cancellation. So we really need to have confidence that you're coming in. Otherwise, we need to get you off the schedule, right? So we use technology, automated text messaging. And actually, Nick, one of the things I'm really excited about is we're about to launch outbound AI calls. So right now we do have a call system where when you call, if our front desk does not answer the phone within 4 rings, it goes to AI. My AI person, her name is Vanessa, and she's amazing. And I've taught her everything that she knows, right? So that's what's great about robots, right? Is you teach them everything you want them to know, the deals, the promotions, what school did the doctor go to, what year did they graduate, is the parking lot handicap accessible, all of that stuff, right? I've educated it with everything that anyone could possibly need to know. And then that way it can answer those questions. But that's inbound. What about outbound? We are going to launch outbound calls to say, hey, Nick, this is Vanessa from Family Care Dental. I just wanted to confirm your appointment for tomorrow at 2:30. Can you confirm? You say yes, boom, it automatically changes your status in the system to confirm. No human involvement, no, you know what I mean? So that's something we're working on. And we'll hopefully be able to send that out also to folks that are on schedule. They're not on the schedule at all. And hey, Nick, we noticed you came in 6 months ago and that we treatment planned a crown for you on number 15. Would you like to go ahead and get that scheduled today? You know what I mean? Like, so as opposed to having, the office doing that, we only have one, two, or two people answering the phone or calling out. So being able to leverage some AI functionality is going to be huge for us and for the patient experience overall.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Well, I guess hopefully today you're going to have another practice, which
Yeah.
is really exciting. So, kind of the last question is acquiring a new practice. What's the first word of advice to somebody else that's doing the same thing? Like, how are you going to go into this, and what would you want them to take away if you were telling somebody else that was in your shoes acquiring a practice or starting a practice? What would you tell them at this
Yeah.
point?
Boy, well, number one, acquiring a practice is way easier than starting a practice. I'm learning that the hard way right now. But yeah, I mean, the definition of acquiring a practice is you acquire a practice. Maybe the doctor's retiring. Maybe the doctors are just looking to kind of relieve themselves of the administrative burden. And so you're going in. An existing patient flow. There's existing, hopefully, cash flow, right? And so you're coming in. You're taking the administrative burden off of their hands. You're streamlining things. You're making things easier for them, right? You're like that, right? You're putting mission, updated mission, values, right? Data, like that's kind of easy. Well, at least my
For
thought.
you.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah. You go in there, you do that, right? You get everybody on board, you figure out who are the good apples, who are the bad ones, right? You make the changes. And that is, relatively speaking, pretty easy. Starting a practice, on the other hand, the one that we're closing on hopefully today, this is a practice where an existing doctor, she was building a second practice because she already had her first one really successful. She's building a second one, and she spent the money to buy the equipment, get it built up, and she opened for literally a handful of days before realizing, whoa, this is way too much. It's not nearly as easy as I thought it was to run two practices simultaneously. And so she said, I made a big mistake. I'm going to sell this. So then we were opportunistic. We swept in. And so now we're taking over, right? So the good news is there's a lot of equipment there, brand new, really good quality. The bad news is that we have zero patients, no revenue, no cash flow, nothing. So that's tough, right? It's definitely something that a lot of people have done and have been successful with. And I hope that we're successful also. But if you think about it, if our model is that my business partner doesn't practice in our practices. He does have a practice that he's at. He practices 2 to 3 days a week to maintain his clinical skills, but he's a businessman, right? He owns real estate, he owns practices, and so that's kind of more his focus. So our model is to hire associate dentists, right? We hire dentists that work for us, right? And we pay them a commission. That's the deal. So then how do we do that at this new practice? How do we incentivize the doctor to say, hey, listen, we've got this really beautiful practice. We'd love to for you to come work for us. We've got no patients, no money, but we'd love, like, that's not going to work, right? So as a result, what we've done is we're going to have my business partner, Dr. Yvonne Montiel. He is going to come work 3 days a week at this new practice. He's a big dog. He's a big dog. This guy, he is an incredible dentist. He's very good at educating you as to what you need. And he really does a great job of instilling that urgency of like, hey, Nick, we need to get this taken care of today, right? Like he's very good at that. So converting, right? And so we're going to get to work, which is great because here he is, my business partner, but we haven't really worked together in the office, right? Like I'm the boss, right? I'm the one running the show. And he's the CEO, kind of the businessman. But now we're gonna get to work together in the office. I'm gonna be like the pseudo office manager, and then he will be the doctor. And we've got our other staff as well. And so we're going to build it up over the course of 6 months, 8 months, and then get it to a point that it's much more lucrative, or it's easier to incentivize a doctor to come in and take over as an associate so that Dr. Montiel can go off and do other things. So yeah, I mean, in a long-winded way of answering your question, I would just say that if you are interested in a practice, get an LOI signed immediately, right? That's what's great about the dentistry business, is that there's no commitment, right? So here I am. I like you. I like your practice. I'm going to make an offer to you. I'm going to get it under LOI. And if you sign it, then that means you're not allowed to show your practice to anybody else. So now I have, 30, 60, 90 days to go through my due diligence, to look through the data, the metrics, the cash flow statements, the P&L statements, looking at the lease, looking at an APA, right, an asset purchase agreement, looking at the lease assignment. All of that stuff is really critical that you get done during the due diligence period. And lastly, I'll say, lesson learned, by the way. This is a lot of the best lessons in life, right, are the most painful ones. And I can speak to that. When you get a practice under LOI, before you say a word to the lawyers, make sure that you contact the landlord and that you get a copy of the lease, and make sure that you review the lease. And if you want, you can maybe send that to the lawyers and have them review it and look at it. But I made the mistake in this last purchase of, I'm a very fast-paced guy. I don't know if you can tell that. I move fast. I don't wait around for anybody.
You're a runner.
Yeah. And so we signed, like, I saw the practice. I signed an LOI that day. By the way, let me tell you the storyline on this one. I found out about a practice on a Friday. Me and the broker were at the practice on Monday morning. And by Monday afternoon, we had an LOI on the practice, right?
Wow.
Signed, executed.
Wow.
So, and then I contacted the lawyers. Let's get the asset purchase agreement going. Let's get the leases, all of this stuff. And it turns out that the lease broker didn't know this, which we were disappointed about, by the way. But the broker didn't know that the lease was only good for another 6 months with only a 3-year renewal period. And a bank's not going to give you money for a practice with a 3-year renewal period, right? They want 5 to 10 years. And so that was just, and I had to pay the lawyer fees, for their time, for reviewing the documents. And so it's just like, that's not, that was a tough lesson learned, but, valuable, right? I'm still learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to plug at the end here before we wrap up?
I'll say that if I could plug something, I'm going to plug FeeStream. So feestream.com, FeeStream.com is a tool that we've discovered in dentistry that I think is an absolute game changer. It doesn't apply to everybody, but basically what this tool is when you get a fee schedule from an insurance company and has all the new fees and all the new codes and everything, typically, historically, people are manually entering that information into their PMS. With FeeStream, you can literally go to the website, drop a PDF into the website. It'll change the format. It'll extract all the information, put it into a text file, and you literally click a button in your PMS and it uploads it. This is saving dozens of hours for our team. And so I would say definitely check out feestream.com. And
Thanks, Daniel. Well, yeah, it was great chatting with you. And yeah, we look forward to continuing the conversation and seeing how your practice grows over the years.
thanks so much, Nick.
Thanks, Daniel.